we got apologies for absence, please?
Councillor Aylesbury, Sally Chapman, Geraint Thomas.
Okay, thank you ever so much. We can see the members here, so we don't. Do you want to do a roll call, Sarah, or not?
Yeah, if you will let me, because then I can check that I can hear members speak when I do the roll call. So very quickly, thank you, Councillor Hodgins.
Yeah, present.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw.
In attendance.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor White. Councillor Davies, we're having trouble getting connection. Councillor Hussey.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Ali. Councillor Diaz.
Hello, good morning.
Hello. Thank you. Councillor Lister.
Here, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Councillor Norton.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Williams. Councillor Colbrand.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Smith. I couldn't hear you that time, Councillor Smith, but I have heard you this morning. Councillor Spencer.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans.
Present. Good morning.
Morning. Councillor Holmes.
In attendance.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Here, present.
Councillor Evans.
Present. Morning, everyone.
Councillor Molson.
Morning. Present.
Good morning. And Councillor Drake.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarvie.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. The declaration of interests, I will read it out. Members of the Fire and Rescue Authority are reminded that the personal responsibility is declared both orally and in writing any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act 2000, Fire and Rescue Authority Standing Orders and the Members' Code of Conduct. Is there any declarations, members?
Yep.
Steve, yeah?
Yeah, Newin is mentioned in the report a few times. Yeah.
Okay, thank you ever so much.
Also with myself, with Newin.
Okay, thank you ever so much. Okay, so to bear with me, I'm trying to use Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I think we normally declare a sort of a general interest, not a prejudicial interest in our own local authority when the matters come up. I think there's a general.
I think why this members from Torfaen have done that because the awards, the new station is actually in the awards.
Oh so yeah, no, I think some of the risk stuff. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you ever so much. So we're going to Chairman's announcements. You'll have to bear with me now because I'm reading off another screen. The Chairman's announcements. It was lovely to see in the Queen's New Year's Honours list the recognition and commitment of so many, and more pleasing to see retired Group Manager Janine Griffiths receive the Queen's Fire Service Medal for distinguished services to the Fire and Rescue Service and our community. Janine led our fire control for many years and was instrumental in delivering this collaborative project. Janine, through many of our critical and major incidents over the years, and I know she leaves a lasting positive legacy for us. Janine was not only the recipient of the Firefighter Recognised Distinguished List. Councillor Maureen Powell of Monmouthshire County Borough Council, previously with the Fire Authority, received the BME Medal for outstanding political service with the impressive record of attendance at council meetings and supporting her community. On behalf of the full Fire Authority, I would like to record our congratulations to both Maureen and Janine. Following the Wales audit Wales corporate representative Fire Authority and members' concerns, myself and the ACO Corporate Services Geraint Thomas met recently with Nick Selwyn of the Audit Wales to discuss members' concerns about the Audit Wales report in the manner that is presented at the Fire Authority meeting in September 2021. This was a very productive meeting, I've got to be honest, and with auditors who recognised the normal standards of presentation and engagement had not been achieved, and give reassurance to myself and Geraint that in future presenting officers would meet the high standards set by Audit Wales. I am assured that improved early engagement and feedback prior to reports now will be finalised by Audit Wales as already is evident to us, and we offer to extend it and provide members an overview of the role of the Audit Wales and future authority meetings. And I've got to be honest, I thought it was quite a productive meeting. On Monday the 10th of January, the Hulton Firefighter Recruits course of 24 trainees joined the service to commence the initial training at Cardiff Gate. I, and I expect everybody else, is hopeful that the passing out parade will be celebrated with friends, family and fire authority members, which we haven't been able to do for quite a while. So on behalf of the fire authority, I wish all the trainees the very best in their initial training. Diolch to everybody. Thank you, members. Let's knock that one off. Right. Okay then, so we go on to the minutes on item 5. So on page 5, last minutes of the fire authority meeting. So we go 5, 6.
Sorry to bother you, Chair. Councillor Brown's indicating to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for, the Chair mentioning Councillor Powell from Monmouthshire County Council who did receiving the honours list, but I think it's Maureen Powell rather than, did you say Marie or?
No, I said Maureen.
Maureen, yeah. I think
I
it's
said Maureen. Yeah, Maureen.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I must have misheard you.
I said Maureen Powell, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're coming on to the minutes then on page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14. Are members happy with
move that, Chair. Yeah.
Second it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Go on to page 15, meeting of the Pensions Board, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Members, well, I was at the meeting, so I can't move because I'm chairing the meeting. So, Val, you happy with those, Councillor Brown? Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown, you're going to
yes, fine, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so on page 21, Finance Asset Performance Management, on page 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's it. Members happy with those reports?
Move that, Chair.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair. Councillor Evans is indicating to speak.
Yes, I can see his hand up. Yes, yes. Steve?
Good morning, everyone. Anyway, as Chair of Finance and Audit and Performance Management Committee, I would like to raise a motion in relation to the minutes of the Scrutiny Board regarding the appointment of member champions and subsequent vacancies. I have spoken to the monitoring officers to check procedural standing orders, and it was confirmed that it is okay to raise this motion today. I would like to propose that the appointment of member champions is offered to all members of the Fire and Rescue Authority, not just members of the Scrutiny Board. I am aware that Councillor David White was previously appointed a champion for environmental, sustainability and biodiversity, and this was voted and approved by the Forth Fire Authority. I therefore move that the appointment of member champions is completed at the AGM of the authority each year. So thank you for that.
Okay. Members, anybody want to comment on that?
Sorry, Chair. I need someone to second that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can we take a vote on that, please, then?
Yes, if there's no debate, members, Chair.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dan,
Councillor Norton's indicating.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sarah. My only question is obviously, it's more around obviously the role of member champions. obviously members outside the scrutiny group can make great member champions, but I'm just wondering how we'll get feedback and how obviously feedback is going to work in future, because over the last 5 years, I think we've had some really great member champions and they've done some good work, but I think it's just generally not been enough feedback for members on the committee and more wider. So obviously I think within this change, I think there needs to be a look more widely how member champions will feedback to the scrutiny group and more wider as well, because at the moment I don't think there's enough structure, so it's not really working at the moment. So that's my only concern.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Anybody else? I'll look at the screen. Councillor Brown?
Yes, thank you. Obviously, it's the first time I've heard of the motion this morning, so it's a question of thinking on our feet, and I would have thought it would have been helpful if it had been, the scrutiny group had been consulted about it. I think that what I would suggest in view of Councillor Norton's response is that basically that if members are appointed at the AGM as member champions, that they then have report to the scrutiny group so that we do get feedback, and I think that would be a useful way forward, because then obviously the feedback that we get would be within the minutes of the scrutiny group.
I think I remember when Councillor White done something. I saw a report, so I'm just thinking off my head here. But any of them, I think it's a much better way for reporting back to committees on what they do and whatever. So I think it's a good way forward. So Val, you want to speak, Val?
Yes, I would support both of those, because there does need to be. Yeah, I have never fed back on anything that I have known. So yes, absolutely support both the motion and Councillor Norton's proposal about feedback. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Val. Anybody else?
Yeah, Chair, Councillor Hodgins. Yeah, I very much in the same vein, if we'd had a chance to sort of decipher the motion earlier. So taking into account the current timelines where we're running quite close now to the period where we do to look for re-election, whether whoever sits on this board, would it be something that could be picked up in the new administration setup?
I would imagine so, yes.
Yeah, because as the other lady said, it's everything needs feedback, because everyone is inclusive, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I would imagine so. As the motion has been put forward, if it's passed on what the comments from Dan have said, I would imagine that will be put into the new administration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bradwick. Thank you.
Sarah?
Councillor Brown is indicating again, Chair.
Yeah, could I propose support for the amendment, but with the amendment to the motion that, either to second or to propose that it does include the feedback to the scrutiny committee group.
I just said that, Councillor Brown, to Councillor Hodgkins. If I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah, I just wondered whether we needed a seconder or a proposer.
I did say that, yes, yes.
Chair.
Yeah, okay, thanks, yeah.
Yeah. So, Councillor Norton is indicating again, Chair.
Yeah, Dan?
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. So what I think obviously Councillor Brown wanted to wonder is, will it formally be included? So is there any way, for suggestion I made, be formally included obviously in the motion, or would it be just by convention? Because obviously we don't know who will be on the fire authority come May, and there could be a lot of new members. Obviously, we're all up for election for members who do stand. So would it be formally part of the proposal? So it would automatically happen, or are we just going to do it by convention? So I think that's Larson.
That's what I just said, Dan, that I agree with what Councillor Steve has said, and I do agree with that. But I also agree with what you said as well. So I think it's if the motion is put down with those words in it, I'm quite happy for that to go ahead.
Very well, members. We'll make sure that is indicated in the minutes for the motion. So, Chair, did you want to take a vote on that motion now?
If there's any dissent, if there's a dissent, I'll have to take a vote. But I don't seem to think there is any dissent at all.
Really, I do need to take a vote, Chair.
Okay, then.
So I'll go through.
Could I just clarify what the motion actually says? Have you sort of worded what the motion says? Because obviously I haven't seen the one that Councillor Evans has sent, prior to this meeting, and so I'm not sure whether members have prior notification of motions before a fire authority meeting, do they, or not?
Chair, if I may respond to that one, Councillor Brown, we checked our procedural orders, and Geraint and I were both of the view that procedural orders would allow for this motion to be raised verbally at this meeting. And just to clarify, the wording that will be in the minutes for the motion is that the appointment of member champions is completed at the AGM of the authority each year, and member champion activity will be reported. Is that acceptable?
I thought it was reported back to the scrutiny group.
Apologies, Councillor Brown, reported back to the scrutiny group.
Okay, thank you. It's obviously, if we're voting, it's helpful to know what we're voting on, but thank you for your assistance.
Thank you, Chair. Are you happy to move with the vote now, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgins?
Yeah, I'm happy to support that motion, please.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
Yeah, support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor White? Councillor White, just checking Councillor White wasn't online. Councillor Husby?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Diaz?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Lister?
Sorry, couldn't unmute then. In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Norton?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Cole-Brown?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer?
In favour.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Councillor Thomas?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
In support.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Molson?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Drake?
In favour of the motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarvie?
In favour.
Thank you. If I could just check that I have taken votes from all members online. I believe I have.
Chair, just to say, Councillor Williams has now joined us, but only joined partway through the debate, so has indicated that he won't vote.
So that was unanimous, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay, then we go to the next item on the agenda, which on 7, updates for action. Geraint not there, is he? So is that you, sir?
Report on strategic indicators. No, that's Dowie Rose today.
No.
Actions.
Oh, sorry.
Update on actions.
I'll take the first one if I could. Morning, members. The land acquisition at Newin, as was reported at previous meetings, we've failed to re-engage with the sellers of the land. They're not responding to any phone calls at the moment. So I've drafted a letter that'll go off to them this week, indicating the importance of the land for us, which is centred around community safety, better response times, and the ability for us to then invest in training facilities at the land, and the fact that we've already incurred some costs at the expenditure of the public purse as well. So hopefully a letter might nudge the sellers into a bit of action and re-engagement with our property team as well. Thank you.
Okay, that's it on our actions.
Yeah.
Okay, diolch. So we go on to item 7, Chris, the revenue budget.
Thank you, Chair. This report is to approve your revenue budget for next financial year, 2022-23. The recommendation is that we increase the budget by 2.29% for that set in the current financial year. The report has been to a variety of the committees of the Fire Authority, including the Fire Authority itself as part of the medium-term financial plan previously. So a lot of the detail in terms of the budget has already been discussed by members on several occasions. What I'll do is I'll just update members on some of the issues that have changed since the last version of this report went to the FAPM committee. Critically, just after the Fire Authority set its draft budget in December, the Welsh Government released the draft Welsh Government budget, and within that the local government settlement for the coming financial year as well. There was an average 9.4% increase in resources for councils, with no council seeing an increase under 8.4%. This is substantially above, obviously, the level of increase the Fire Authority will be requesting for next year. It would be remiss of me not to point out that those large increases for local government, of course, came with significant funding pressures as well. So whilst it might appear on the face of it that local councils have got a significant increase and Fire Authority is not asking for similar increases, that reflects the reality of the financial situation that councils are in at the moment. Paragraph 2.9 of the report outlines the population impact of the draft budget. Members will be familiar with the fact that we distribute our budget across the 10 constituent councils based on population, and every year population numbers change. And you'll see there are a variety of impacts from that population change on that table. It shows principally that Newport suffers the highest increase as a result of an increased population estimate, and Blaenau Gwent is at the opposite end of the scale with the largest reduction. The Fire Authority has no say in that redistribution of monies. That is a quirk of the way the system works to distribute money around the local authorities. The one area of the budget that I did want to just touch on in terms of the planning that we've got, members will recall that we did actually overestimate to a degree the assumptions of pay for the current year. And that's reflected in the fact that our current budget monitoring is showing that we are underspending in the current financial year. In terms of next year, we have at the moment only assumed 1.5% as pay increases within the budget. Now, members will be well aware that RPI is starting to creep up across the country, and pay demands, wage demands across the country are also starting to creep up as well. And therefore, there represents a degree of risk in setting a budget at this level that pay awards might come in at a higher level. And the recommended kind of course of action here is we maintain the 2.29% overall estimate. We will use any reserves that we put aside in the current year to actually pick up any risk in those numbers. So if pay awards come above that 1.5% figure, we will effectively use this year's underspend to meet that need. We will, of course, in future have to play catch up if that happens. So we will be looking to sort of pull ourselves back to the right level of base funding for the following year, should that be the case. The other aspect of the budget, which we hadn't reported previously, although Scrutiny Group did get a taste of this last week, was the result of the consultation exercise. And members will have noted that Appendix 3 of this report was actually blank when it went out. And the simple fact of the matter was we hadn't had any consultation responses, formal consultation responses at that time. We have now had a consultation response from Newport Council. It broadly just explored the numbers within the consultation that we put out and indicated that the level of request that we were putting forward was acceptable, and it was within the sort of parameters that they had within their budget to pay for Fire Authority services, so a broadly positive response. We have had a request from Bridgend Council to attend a meeting there. Unfortunately, because of timing of meetings, it will be after we set the budget today, but we are intending to accede to that request and actually visit Bridgend to take them through not only the operational responses of the fire authority, the operational statistic, but also the financial background to the budget as well. So we will be doing that in due course. Other than that, Chair, I don't propose to go through in any more detail. The figures on the budget are included in terms of the detail of it, together with the capital programme. Just to reiterate, we are asking for a 2.29% increase for next year, representing just over £79 million worth of revenue budget net spend.
Thank you, Chris, for that. Before I call Danny, can I bring in Steve, the chair of the Finance Committee?
Yeah, what do you want to ask?
Well, no, are you happy with what's been said?
Yes, like Chris has said, it's been through a couple of times, and the relevant challenges and questions have been asked previously. But I think this is the best approach. 2.29 is what's agreed by most members, and it's a fair reflection on the current financial situation. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Steve. Dan?
Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Chris, for another excellent report over the years. You've done a great work. The Fire Authority has done a great work in trying to outreach member authorities as well. My only concern is, obviously, you've mentioned the leeway we have, but how much will that be? Because obviously it's uncertain, obviously, on the Green Book on pay awards. So if it was 3%, would for reserves be enough to cover a bit for pay awards? Or potentially 5%? Would we potentially be in a situation where the Fire Authority the new authority come next year will potentially have to do a budget partway through the year to cover any extra costs. So I'm just trying to really just see how much the reserves can kind of cope with.
Thank you, Councillor Norton, for that question. In terms of the sorts of pay awards that you're looking at, the currently indicated budget underspend for the current year, obviously that can change before the end of the financial year, so we can only base it on the current projections. But it would indicate that we could absorb something like a 4% pay award next year from that underspend in the current year. We would obviously strive not to go back to the local authorities in year to try and ask for more money. It's unhelpful for their budget processes and not ideal for ours either in terms of our own management of our budget. So I think the answer is we could probably absorb just over 4% next year. We would, of course, as I say, have to go back the following year and make good on that increase.
Val?
Yes, please. Leading on from Dan, really curious. I can recall one occasion when we've actually overrun our budget over all the years. Am I right on that?
I think there was one year that I can remember, yes. Councillor Smith, and it wasn't a very big figure from memory. Any extenuating circumstances previously for 1 year when we had the strike action, which I think did increase our costs quite substantially. But we have put in new arrangements with regards to the auxiliary and things like that to mitigate that happening in future.
Yeah, pretty good record, isn't it? Thank you.
Chair, can I ask a question, please?
By all means, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. As we know now, the Welsh Government have indicated that there will be no more support for anything related to the COVID situation in the event that it comes back perhaps later on in the year, etc. Have we got a provision in for that? Because the Welsh Government is saying that each authorities now have got to cover their own costings. I just wondered where we are with that.
So, Chair,
resilience.
The situation on COVID, as Councillor Hodgins indicates, we've been drawing down grant monies from Welsh Government over the currency of the 2 years. We'd actually reached a position of largely neutrality in terms of those grant claims within the Fire Authority. So we were broadly, any increased costs that we'd seen in the past, we'd managed to now kind of deal with and absorb into core business. And we've also, of course, been making some savings as a result of COVID as well on things like travel and associated matters. We've also managed to get energy down to a degree as well as a result of that. So we'd actually come to a point of naturally not really claiming back anything from Welsh Government anyway at this point in time. So we don't anticipate that it would affect us significantly going forward. I mean, obviously, if that situation changes, if there was another big outbreak and we had to significantly change the way we operate, then we would have to reconsider that position and look to how we could either absorb it or, of course, ask Welsh Government for more support.
I see. Yeah, which is right. But as I said, it's been stated out from the outset the Welsh Government are not going to give any more support. So I think your first statement of absorption is going to be the route in the event of, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's largely where we are at this moment in time. So we've kind of already got to that position of balance, if you like.
Okay, thanks for your response. Thank you.
Any other member? Nope. Okay, so the recommendation is that the Fire Authority approve and proposed revenue capital budgets. So everybody is going to take a vote on that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hodgins.
Yes, I'm happy to approve the budget, please.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Approved, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fuzzy.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Diaz.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Lister.
In favour.
Councillor Norton.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
In favour, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Colbrand.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer.
Yes, support.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
In support.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Molson.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Drake.
In favour.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarvie.
In favour.
Thank you. That was unanimous, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. So we go on to the next item on the agenda on page 49, 7.2. That's Dewi.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members. This report recommends that members note the performance indicator targets proposed for 2022-23 and its publication onto the intranet of South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. In addition, give myself delegated powers to review the targets in line of Q4 data and to refine those targets as necessary. As members will be aware, the service has to report on 7 strategic performance indicators to Welsh Government on an annual basis. These indicators, 4 relate to incidents attended. They relate to total fires, total false alarms, total road traffic collisions attended, and other special service calls attended. There are another 2 indicators that relate to number of deaths and injuries caused by fires and accidental fires, and the final indicator links to the percentage of dwelling fires confined to the room of origin. The details of all these indicators are provided on the background paper that accompanies this paper, and the suggested performance targets that we set for 2022-23 are covered in paragraphs 2.3 to 2.9. If I just summarise the current position on our performance, when we look at the total fires attended, the target, our performance is likely to be lower than the previous year and lower than the target we set. As a flavour, 40% of the fires we attend are refuse, 20% currently grass and vehicle fires account for 12% of the fires we attend. When we look at attendance at false alarms, again, it's lower than last year, but slightly above the target that we set for the current year we're in. This is due to a slight increase in dwelling calls for false alarms. So that's somebody's had a smoke alarm activated in their home and called the fire service, an increase of approximately 4%. We see this as a positive thing, that if somebody has a smoke alarm activated in their home, we can go there, interact with the residents, and actually give them fire safety advice to hopefully prevent a reoccurrence. So although we've gone slightly above our target, in some respects, that's a positive thing. We've seen a corresponding increase in the amount of times we're attending false alarms in the home. When we look at RTCs, our calls have been higher than the previous year, but below the target we've set. This is predominantly due to COVID restrictions being lifted. And again, the target we've set for the forthcoming year reflects the restrictions being lifted even more. And unfortunately, it's likely, as more people travel on the road, we'll see an increase in the number of RTCs in our area. And finally, when we look at the final stat relating to attendance at calls, special service calls is higher again than last year and above the target we set. Affecting an entry has seen a 63% increase. Our attendance of bariatric calls have seen a 28% increase, albeit from 237 to 303 calls. And assisting other agencies has seen an increase of between 274 to 387 calls, which is a 41% increase. So as we've gone through this COVID period with restrictions, we have seen a different distribution of the calls we attend in assisting other agencies. When we look at the two indicators relating to deaths and injuries, the one looks at overall deaths and injuries, and the second looks at deaths and injuries relating to accidental fires. They're both higher than the previous year, but below the targets we've set. And the slight increase corresponds to an increase of around 1% in the number of accidental dwelling fires we've seen. Well, I can reassure members that we are still conducting home fire safety checks, albeit we've had to implement adapted strategies, virtual home safety checks to coincide with the current COVID restrictions, and some residents not wishing for members of the service to enter their properties. But I can assure, through working with our partners, we are doing home safety checks at the more at-risk people in our communities. And finally, the last indicator, the percentage of fires confined to the room of origin. Again, it's slightly higher than last year, which is actually a good performance. A higher number is preferred, but below our target of 85%. We've only just missed that target, and I believe the target will remain at 85%. There's a brief summary of all the indicators. As I've said, the targets for the forthcoming year have been set with the assistance of the stats team, looking at predictions and trends, not only of this last 9-month data, but the previous 4 years' data as well. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Debbie, for that. Any questions? A good report again. Steve?
Yeah, just to commend, Dewi on the report. And during the COVID situation, the community engagement teams releasing information into the, particularly food banks and everywhere else. So I just commend them on the work they've been doing, even during COVID. So thank you for that.
I'd second that as well, Steve. Val?
Yes, please. With a reference to refuse fires, Dewi, is it the plastic bins or heaps of stuff that people are leaving around that are causing the problems, or big, sites where refuse is dumped?
Yeah, so the refuse wouldn't be counted if we've got large recycling plants. So we have seen an increase in refuse across a range of from bins to private waste, but we have seen an increase through COVID where there's been changes to collection times or accessibility to your public amenity sites. So we've seen a lot of dumping, as I'm sure councillors through local authority debate have seen an increase in fly tipping. We've seen a consequently increase fly tipping, and which has then resulted in deliberate refuse fires.
Right. The other was just a comment, really. Yeah, road safety is a big concern with me. I've got a road that's in my ward that's really something needs doing. Traffic is going at a fast. Is it my imagination, Dewi, or is traffic? Well, it isn't my imagination. Traffic goes past my place now. It's like a speed track. There seems to be a gay abandon. Now people have been sort of unrestricted. They seem to have had their foot on the pedals. I don't know. It's very distressing. It's very distressing that people are so inconsiderate. No, thank you very much. It's a good report.
Yeah, what I can again, Councillor, we do work closely with the police and the road traffic teams within local authorities. And one of the things we do is where we can, outside some of our fire stations, we do work with the police, and where people are found to be using their mobile phones when driving, when people are perhaps not wearing a seatbelt, we are able to assist the police in giving them talks using our premises to absolutely change their behaviour. So we're doing what we can, working with our partners to reduce road traffic collisions, and we'll continue to do that. And when we're allowed to go back into schools, we will welcome the opportunity to educate young people, potentially new drivers, on how to drive safely. So we're doing all we can.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Molson is indicating to speak.
Yes, I can see yes, yeah.
Thank you for the report, absolutely fantastic. If it wasn't for the fire service, I wouldn't be here now. They saved my life a very long time ago. Within my other role as Tractor Charity in Torfaen, I work very closely with the 3 fire brigades in my ward and surrounding wards, where we are now back out doing smoke alarms. We do this via my charity, and as a working agency with the fire brigade, I'm able to speak to the most vulnerable. I'm able to speak to those that's on their own, private tenants. If they haven't got these fire alarms in place, we operate a day that I go out with one of the fire brigades and they assist with fitting the smoke alarms. Special thanks to my teams, well, all teams really, because during lockdown, Steve Evans is on here, he's quite aware what I've had to put up with. I've had fires in the churchyard, I've had bin fires at the back of the shop, I've had fires in my community garden, and the fire service are there, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, I concur. I can't thank the service for what they've done for around my area second to none, and I genuinely believe that. And it makes me mad when I see reports that people are throwing stones and abusive to firefighters. They're there to save people's lives, not to have all this stuff thrown at them. Thank you so much. Val, you want to come in?
Yes, there was a very nice letter of appreciation that officers may not have seen in, what was it, the Abergavenny Chronicle possibly. A really good thank you to our officers from retrieving a gentleman who fell off his high roof onto a flat roof, fractured his pelvis and whatever, and was hugely grateful to the fire authority, to the officers from Abergavenny who got him off his flat roof, obviously in a dreadful state, and took him to hospital. So it was a great service that he really appreciated.
Okay, thanks, Val. That's brilliant. So, any other member want to speak on this, please? Nope.
A folding one, you know.
Okay, so the recommendations are the members note the performance indicated targets proposed 22 and 23. The members approve the delegation to the Assistant Chief Fire Officer to review Q4 2021-22 data, plan reduction strategies and refine the targets as necessary. And the members approve this publication on the South Wales Fire and Rescue internet site. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yep.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Sarah, do you want to vote?
Sorry, Chair. I do need to go through a vote on report position. I'll do it as quickly as I can. Councillor Hodgins?
He's gone, I think, now, sir.
He's gone, I think. Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Hussey?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Ali? No, it's not here. Councillor Diarra?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Lister?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Norton?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
I'd like to support Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Colbrown?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer? I'm not sure if Councillor Spencer...
No, so you're prepared.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas? Councillor Thomas? No.
Yes.
Councillor Brown? Oh,
I can
thank
see
you.
Councillor Thomas. I can see him to the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Support,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Bradwick?
Yes. Support. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
In support.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Molson?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Drake?
In favour.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarvie?
In favour.
Thank you very much. That was unanimous, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. So, members, we go on to page 65, 7.3, the annual pay settlement. Alison Reid, please.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. So, as members will know, we are required to publish a pay policy statement each year. This is a forward-looking statement, and Fire Authority have determined that the HR and Equalities Committee review the statement prior to it coming to full Fire Authority. Just to confirm, the HR and Equalities reviewed the pay policy statement at its meeting on the 24th of January and unanimously supported the changes to the document. Just to flag in terms of the report itself, in section 3, I've highlighted that we are currently reviewing our approach to honorariums. So I would see the policy statement needing to be updated once we have concluded that piece of work, which follows our job evaluation exercise. I estimate that piece of work will be probably concluded by the end of this financial year. I've also flagged in the report itself, as was mentioned earlier, Green Book colleagues still have not had a pay award for the year 2021. So we will need to update the policy statement to reflect the changes in salary rates once that information is received. In terms of the substantive changes within Appendix 1, I'll just take you through them quickly. Just to highlight section 4.1 on page 73, that section, as well as 4.3, has been refreshed to more properly reflect the review of principal officer pay in line with the NJC Council for Brigade Managers' salary terms and conditions. Section 4.1, which is on page 76, so towards the top of that page, I've updated that section. It's a new paragraph relating to our job evaluation exercise, and it confirms that the effective date of implementation of the job evaluation outcomes and the new pay spine points that were effective from August 2021. Just to take you on then to section 9.1, which is on page 78. In line with the job evaluation outcomes, the lowest salary point in service as of the 1st of August 21 is £19,312. So that's been inserted into 9.1. And then just to highlight section 9.3, the reference to the national living wage also now includes a reference to the real living wage, which received approval at the Fire Authority meeting in December 2021. And we have now registered our wish to become a real living wage employer on the online portal. So steps are in hand to progress that for the service. So those are the substantive changes in Appendix 1. The report is looking for Fire Authority approval to the pay policy statement so that we can publish it by the end of this financial year.
Well, thank you very much, Alison. Pam, do you want to, as the Chair of HR, do you want to come in, Pam?
Sorry about that. I couldn't get myself unlocked. No, we had a good discussion on it at our last meeting, and everybody fully approved this report.
Okay,
So
thank
I don't know
you.
whether you want. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Anybody else? Val?
Yes, yes, please, Chairman. Just a very quick one. 7.1, where it refers to support staff, I presume that includes the auxiliary officers as well. It says all other staff, and I presume that it would. Support staff categories as such, their remuneration. So I presume within that we are I don't know, did we?
Yes, auxiliaries would be included in the all other staff group.
Yes.
Councillor
And can I
Smith.
ask, thank you very much. Can I ask another question, please? And it's not really job evaluation. How many people actually have appealed? I know it's not written in here, Alison, but it's a question I wanted to ask. How many appeals against the job evaluation have you actually received?
Yes, Councillor Smith, we've received 50 appeals through the job evaluation exercise. We're currently working our way through those appeals, and we expect to conclude the appeals and the first phase of job evaluation by the end of March. The plan is to put a report back to Fire Authority, just detailing the outcomes of the exercise, the whole exercise.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Rod?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and thank you, Alison. Another good report. Just one small point, if I may, please. On page 78, that's paragraph 8.3. There is a typo that may have an issue, I suppose. On the last line, it does say delegated authority levels that are complaint with the terms of pay policy, and I presume it's meant to be compliant.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Good spot. I will get that corrected.
Thank you very much.
Really good one, Rod. I like that. Excellent. Councillor Brown?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask on the job evaluation. I think when it was mentioned before, I asked, if an analysis could be done to make sure that that doesn't increase the gender pay gap. And I just wondered if that had been undertaken. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brown. The answer is yes, we will be undertaking an analysis of the outcomes. Obviously, we can't do that yet because we are still working through the appeal process. But once that's concluded, a full analysis from a gender pay perspective will be undertaken.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, it's very brief, Chairman.
Yes, go on, Val, yes.
Oh, right, thank you. 13.6, honorarium payments are pensionable, fine, yes. And obviously, presumably, acting up payments are also pensionable. Just making sure that I'm trying to remember the system, Alison. So, question being that the honorarium payments are pensionable, that's fine. And I also assume that any acting up payments are also pensionable.
So we have a distinction. Honorarium payments apply to corporate staff, and the acting up section applies to grey book colleagues. So there is a distinction. Corporate employees' honorariums are pensionable, but there was a change in legislation and procedure around grey book colleagues and the pensionability for acting up. So there's a slight difference there.
So it isn't pensionable?
From it was changed back in, I think, 2015. There was a change in approach.
Right. Thank you very much. I admire your knowledge, girl.
Right, thank you ever so much, members. So the recommendation is that members review South Wales Fire and Rescue Authority's Pay Policy Statement 22-23 and the members approve the 2023 pay policy statement published by the 31st of March 2022. So all members agreed with that. Can I have a proposal second? Everybody happy with that? Okay.
Yep, I'll move that, Chair.
Second it, yeah.
Sorry,
So,
Chair, this is the
vote.
last report decision, and I do have to take the vote. Thank you.
Just said, can we go to the vote? Yes.
Oh, apologies. Councillor Shaw?
In favour, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Hussey?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Diaz?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Lister?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Norton, I think you were distracted during that, weren't you? So I won't
Yes,
take...
I do apologise. I had to take a phone call, so I will not vote on this item.
Thank you. Councillor Williams? Councillor Williams? Okay, move on. Councillor Colbrand?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer? Councillor Spencer? Councillor Thomas?
Approve.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick?
Approve.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
In support.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Molson?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Drake?
In favour.
And Councillor Jarvie?
In favour. In
Thank you
favour.
very much. Thank
Sarah,
you.
Sarah, my microphone didn't seem to work. I wanted to vote in favour. It's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I will note that down on
Cheers.
my board sheet. Again, Chair, thank you for your patience, and that was unanimous.
Okay, thank you. So we go to the next item on the agenda, which is, I believe, Gary's not there, so it's 8-1. Who's taking this one, please? Is it you, Hugh?
Richie, be taking this one, Chair.
Okay, you're right. He's been quiet all morning. It's about time he earned his money. Yes, go on, Rich. Yes, sorry.
That's a first.
I'm always quiet, Chair. Always quiet. So members will recall the tragic events on the night of the 14th of June 2017 with Grenfell Tower, a large tower block in London that caught fire. A number of people were killed by it. And the Grenfell Tower inquiry which followed to review the reasons why this happened and how it could be prevented in the future. Following the publication of the phase one of the Grenfell Tower inquiry, the Welsh Minister tasked her advisor to conduct a thematic review into identifying the degree to which fire and rescue services in Wales had complied with the various recommendations contained with the report. Members should also recall that following this report by Dan Stevens into how we prepared for and acted against the recommendations, that Dan was very pleased with the level of engagement with the fire and rescue services and how we'd implemented our activities against the recommendations. However, within Dan's report, he also identified 5 wider areas that he believes the fire and rescue services in Wales should consider. The purpose of the report today really is to take you through these 5 wider recommendations and the progress against them as a service. So his first recommendation was around the decision-making model. The decision-making model is used by incident commanders when they go to incidents, and he felt that we should change the way that the sector explains the decision-making model and trains young incident commanders coming through. He's made representations to the National Fire Chiefs Council to change this national doctrine. They haven't yet responded and changed it. So as a service, while we're awaiting this change, our own incident command team have developed a range of lectures and presentations, and they've been delivering these to incident commanders at all levels throughout the service. We've also included an all initial incident command courses. So we believe this recommendation is now completed. With regards to recommendation 2, this was around a formalised All Wales approach to national operational guidance, so that the potential to set up a virtual dedicated national operational guidance transition team to implement some of the changes that are happening nationally. So we set up a Wales Implementation Forum, which is represented by each of the 3 fire and rescue services in Wales, and the purpose of this group is to ensure consistency of approach. This has been done, but what's become immediately apparent is the 3 fire and rescue services are in slightly different positions. For us as a service, we're in a really positive position in that we've completed our strategic gap analysis against all the changes nationally, and we're in a positive place, and this work has been reported through to our operational coordination group and our senior management team. So for thematic review recommendation number 2, again, we're happy and content that this one has now been completed. However, the work of the National Issues Committee will carry on to pick up any changes that come as they're delivered. Recommendation 3 was about site-specific risk information. Obviously, with buildings such as Grenfell Tower, it's important that our crews, when they respond, have access to this information. And we as a service have a very robust system for the collation and dissemination of site-specific risk information. You'll recall that we invested quite heavily in mobile data terminals within the front of our fire appliances, and we work in partnerships with the West Midlands Fire and Rescue. This provides a very innovative, easy for me to say, state-of-the-art solution to transmitting information risk critical to crews when they turn up to incidents. Obviously, the size and complexity of South Wales as a risk area makes this a big challenge for us. And we've completed all high-rise buildings within the service, and we have SSRIs to cover these. For an example, there's 280 high-rise within South Wales, of which 119 are commercial, 16 are mixed, and 144 are high-rise residential. Our crews carry out loads of visits to make sure we collate this information. The information is up to date. So we're content that recommendation number 3 is completed. There is still work to go on with regards to public entertainment venues, coma sites and heritage, and we'll be progressing these over the next 12 months. Recommendation 4 is on the tactical flow rates for firefighting. This essentially means that firefighters have sufficient water supplies to extinguish a fire and keep it under control. Our BA team have put together training packages which will be disseminated to all staff across the service, and we believe this will be completed by October 22. We have a new BA training platform, again, to enhance the amount of training we give at Cardiff Gate. The BA working group will look at flow rate meters with the potential to introduce these in the service in the future, but that's under evaluation. Recommendation 5 is around accepting recommendations contained within the report and our operational criteria. We review what our crews do operationally, both actively and reactively. Actively through our operational development review team, go and actually watch incidents, and reactively using debriefs. We've had quite a large exercise in November this year called Taxing Towers, which is in the old tax office site in Lannish and in Cardiff, a 10-pump incident, testing how our crews respond and also how fire control deal with multiple fire survival guidance calls, like the ones they saw at Grenfell that night. This was a very successful incident where we actually learnt a lot, and we're looking to run another one now in March. But nothing as good as a real event. So on the 1st of August 2021, we had a real incident in Parkview, Greyfriars Road, Cardiff. 11 appliances, 3 specials attended. We managed to evacuate a total of 258 people from the fire, which was a well-engulfed fire on the 7th floor. We managed to rescue 3 children and 1 adult. So it was excellent, and real credit to our crews who performed to a really high standard, and fire control who mobilised. At the same time, we had 2 other ongoing incidents in the Cardiff area, and I actually attended that incident, so I can say firsthand how well crews performed. So exceptional stuff. Obviously, this report is for information, so any questions to members?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thanks, Rich, for the report. Outstanding. And yes, that incident you said in Cardiff, which you attended, yeah, I was briefed along with the chair on that, so I really think that's outstanding. But no, fantastic report. Any members got any questions?
No.
Steve? Right, well, I can see couple of answers. Steve first.
Excellent report as usual, Richard. I don't know whether you could cover this. Particularly, I'm concerned with all the extra responsibilities the firefighters got and the senior staff. My concern is when we come to the thematic review, which I think Hugh was going to do and follow on, do you think it's putting more and more added pressure on our firefighters and crews?
Okay. Yeah, so there is a review ongoing to see with regards to capacity for what we're able to do. My own personal view is the Fire and Rescue Service has changed a lot since I joined 25 years ago, and we now have statutory duty for water rescue. We do water rescues from height, CBRN, bariatric rescues, animal rescues. So the amount of guidance coming centrally has increased, and the expectations on emergency services, quite rightly, has increased. And we can see that in reviews such as Grenfell Tower and Manchester Arena inquiry. So I think it is a constant challenge to ensure that our crews are capable and ready to respond to the incidents that we have, which is changing, climate change, terrorism threat, the list does go on. So I think for me, it's a good opportunity for us with the thematic review at the moment going on around the capacity for how we can maintain competence for the types of risks we enter. So, I'm approaching it with an open mind. I think, with uninjured fallers, that is a big challenge for us as a service, I think, to overtake that. But, some of the medical stuff, we've already started training staff towards that. But, I really do look forward to the work and the outcomes of the research that's currently ongoing.
Right, both your hands will up together, Dan and Glyn. So I'll do alphabetical order. Holmes, Glyn Holmes.
Thank you, Chairman. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the fire broke out at Grenfell, there was criticism levelled against the fire service. As far as I'm concerned, that was unjustified. From what has come out and what whispers have come out down the line, first of all, the external cladding was not really fit for purpose because the damn stuff burned. There were windows not correctly fitted, and internal fire doors, smoke doors, had been removed. So the fire service, when they arrived at that building, didn't have a cat's chance in hell in doing much about it. There was one other thing which appears to be an issue. The documentation supporting the building regulations, approved document M, the section referring to composite panels, which these panels were, is somewhat ambiguous. Is there any investigation that you know about that? Would you think the regulations would be changed? Because every time we have a disaster in buildings, the legislation changed to counteract that. And the first one I can remember was the Ronan Point disaster with progressive collapse in the 1960s. Then we had Summerland back in the 1970s with Oroglass. And then I think it was the Manchester fire when the introduction of cavity barriers.
Yeah.
I wonder if Richard's got any comments.
I think Councillor Holmes is very well informed in the areas of building fire safety. There is research on go now, and part of the consideration of the inquiry into Grenfell will look into a lot of those areas. I can talk in terms of South Wales specific. We visited all our high-rise buildings within South Wales. We've got a very proactive business fire safety team and high-rise team that are really well equipped to actually go and review some of these. We've worked with owners, responsible people around cladding, around the removal of unsafe cladding, and particular success story in Newport with Newport City Homes, the introduction of sprinkler systems into their high-rise buildings. I think we're managing the risk. It is a dynamic risk because, we find out more all the time. So yeah, I think we're on top of it in terms of looking over our own specific buildings and working with the owners and occupiers to try and make them as safe as possible.
Can I come back in there, Chairman, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no way I'm putting you on the spot, Richard. No way at all. But it comes back to construction. It doesn't matter how many plans you have in the office or what you see on the surface. If that structure is not built correctly, There are mega problems, and that's what it all comes back to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for us, in terms of the sector, we've worked with High Rise on the assumption that any fire gets stopped into the compartment of origin, so it doesn't spread. And what we can see at Grenfell, because that's something that has happened, is it wasn't contained to the compartment of origin. And the one thing I can say as a professional firefighter is where you have a fire in a high rise, it is not confined to the compartment of origin. It becomes incredibly difficult for crews responding. So again, the idea is to be proactive in our business fire safety teams to get out there and identify compartmentation issues, cladding issues, and ensure that appropriate risk reduction measures are implemented for those sites.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chairman. Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
See, that's the thing. But you were road signaling. You know more about builders than anybody else. I can show you that. Yes.
I wouldn't say that, Chairman. I'm coming to the end of my career now.
Yeah. Dan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Richard. It's a really great response. Obviously, because of the report and review, obviously was at Welsh level, it talks obviously a lot about what can be done on a Wales-wide level and working together. But my thoughts on that is obviously because South Wales Fire and Rescue Authority area is a lot different to Mid and West Wales and North Wales. Has there been, and obviously you've mentioned the partnership we have with West Midlands, has there been any further modelling or work with authorities in England which we share more demographically with, particularly with obviously a number of high-rise buildings, and which might be more useful in obviously modelling our responses and sharing knowledge than obviously our neighbours in Wales, which is important, but again, demographically can be a bit different.
Yeah, there is. So the National Fire Chiefs Council does collate all that information into one place. So they have a tall buildings working group, and they have quite a lot of focus on obviously the outcomes from the Grenfell Tower inquiry. That enables all larger sort of urban conurbations, such as London, your West Mids, your Manchesters, your Glasgows, all to feed in the learning and what's happening across the service and across the sector. So yeah, I can reassure you that work definitely does happen. We have quarterly returns we have to give to the National Fire Chiefs Council now regarding our progress. Any new innovative solutions are identified. So one of the biggest challenges with Grenfell Tower was about fire survival guidance. So being able to manage multiple calls by members of the public in a building that was fully engulfed. So that's a big challenge, and that work and how we actually achieve that and identify that the flats at risk is ongoing. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Thanks, Dan. Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you very much for the report. I noticed that on 2.16 and 2.17 of the report on page 100, you actually mention figures in regard to site visits and site-specific risk information. I just wondered, obviously, this is sort of assessing the risk of each individual property, including 144 that are high-rise residential. I just wondered, what's the progress with regard across either in our region or across Wales in terms of replacing the cladding on these buildings so that they're less flammable? I mean, are there any government grants available? And obviously it's going to be a higher risk if the cladding itself is flammable. So I just wondered what your views or information on that was. Thank you.
Yeah, so as a service, we identified all the buildings that we could within South Wales had the combustible cladding. We've worked with the owner-occupiers to help to get them removed. And what we do, because there's such a range of buildings in that high number, our business fire safety team are working individually with them. So sometimes if we can't have a suitable outcome for us as a service, we'll insist on a wake-in watch. That is people there 24/7 that can raise an alarm should something happen, because obviously one of the risk mitigations can be to have a quicker, faster way to response from identifying a fire and responding and putting water on it. So what I would say is that it's a very mixed situation. I can't recall off the top of my head the numbers that still have combustible cladding, but I can bring that back to you at a future meeting. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Malson. Yeah, go on. Yep.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Chairman. Only a
No,
flippant one.
no, not you, Val. Go on. Councillor
Right.
Malson was then. Yeah, she was before you. Sorry, Val. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Richard, for the report. You mentioned that the tower block with in Newport Homes are putting sprinklers in there.
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Now, in Torvine, we have 2 tower blocks, one in Pontnewydd, one in Cwmbran Town Centre. They're owned by Housing Association. Can you tell me if the Housing Association, what they have done for improvements to stop anything terrible to happen? Have they put sprinklers in? Their doors, are they adequate and everything like that?
Yeah, if you leave that one with me, obviously when I have that information directly to hand, I can go and contact you individually around the work, and Councillor Evans, the work that has gone on in those 2 sites. I know from personal experience, having responded to incidents in both of those towers previously myself as well, that the one in Brynhaven, it did undergo refurbishment maybe about 8 years ago. But I can certainly get an up-to-date picture for you. No problem.
Yeah, thank you. I'd appreciate that. Because it is alarming if they haven't thought of putting sprinklers in there when we've got another council over the ward area that are doing this within their high-rise buildings.
Yeah, I think from a fire perspective, well, there's no requirement for them to fit sprinklers, but it's something that obviously is good. And the proactive response by Newport City Homes was really, really good, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can I just, on the back of that, Chair, before Councillor Smith comes in, I do believe the Housing Association, which Councillor Malson's referring to, I'll let Rich do some background digging, but I do believe that they were one of the first housing associations to adopt sprinklers in high-rise living. But I'll let Rich do some background digging, but I'm sure they were, and that was some years pre-Grenfell as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Val, you talking to me now?
Thank you. The flippant bit first, Chairman. Is it 2.21? Would you prefer conduction to conducting on that one? Now, and then on bullet point 2.24, the final sentence, please, Rick. The airwave radios were fit for purpose, but resource intensive to implement. If you could enlarge a bit on that, and then the final page of the Appendix 1, I thought was great. The sentence in the middle, that the levels of engagement, openness and candour were exemplary, and all of the officers involved are a credit to the Welsh Fire and Rescue Services. And endorse that. I thought it was really nice to read that, a real credit to you. And you are mentioned there, Richard Prendergast, with the other officers who conducted that report. So if you could enlarge on that bit as to the resource intensive to implement, I didn't understand what that was.
Okay, so firstly, thank you for the kind words as well. What we try and do as a service is we try and run towards the learning, not away from it. So yeah. I think sometimes it's really important that where we have reviews and have opportunities that we're open to review our procedures, both strengths and weaknesses, which is why it's good as well to look at the next review that the advisor's carrying out. So in terms of airwave radios, what the challenge gets, and if you can envisage a large high-rise premise with lots of flats and lots of people ringing control, fire control getting that guidance about people saying there's smoke in my corridor, etc. Then relaying it onto the incident ground then. So for people who are maybe in a bridgehead, which would be in like one of the stairwells, and saying, right, we have these flats, these people, these need rescuing, prioritising. The challenge comes in the amounts of lines of control.
Yeah.
So, you could say there were hundreds at any one time in Grenfell Tower. So how you collect that information from fire control, how you make the decision, then you're going to evacuate a large building, where you're going to bring the people out, how you prioritise the people, and how you actually brief your firefighters to go and rescue them.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. I got tied up with bits of wire and bits of knobs and what were you doing? It makes absolute sense. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you.
Pam?
Yeah, I didn't want to ask any questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
All right. I didn't want to ask any questions. I just wanted to thank Richie for that report. But seeing that photograph certainly brought it all back and refocused my mind how dreadful and tragic it was. It was a real eye-opener seeing that photograph again. And I hope that we never see anything like that. And all measures are put in place to prevent any reoccurrences. And I hope everybody will be working on that very, very quickly.
Yeah. Thanks, Pam. Can I just say, Rich, excellent report, as outstanding. But what I would like to say as well, regarding our officers, I sent an email to our chief last week from a councillor from my area, Councillor Tina Williams. I was concerned about something, and the professionalism and the quick action of who our chief officer get in contact with our safety people, second to none. I cannot fault it, absolutely. Because Tina was getting nowhere with other people, but she got somewhere with the fire service. So we're always one step ahead. Yeah.
Chair, I'm not sure if Councillor Evans was indicating at the beginning to speak.
I thought he was just waving at me.
I did ask my question, but like I said, we're lucky that our service, and I can't commend them enough, we're very proactive. And we ought to be, really proud of that, because a lot of people outside don't realise the amount of work that goes in to make us proactive.
No, exactly. I totally agree with you, Steve. Yeah. Okay, Rich, yeah?
For me, if possible, I really would like to underline the actions of the crews on the 1st of August in the Park Plaza. If members get the chance to check on BBC, you can search back Park Plaza Fire August 21. You'll see an image of the glow 7 stories up, which was a really well-developed fire. And crews to say, may have saved 4 lives that night. Definitely saved 3. They do to prepare, to be aware of what the buildings look like, the layout of the buildings, and train. So yeah, really, for myself, appreciation to them, but also again the actions by fire control, which again on the night were outstanding. And one more was the resident or the owner occupier of Tiger nightclub, who's seeing all this happen, actually ended his nightclub and allowed the people who were taking refuge from the hotel to seek refuge in his nightclubs, which was really brilliant.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. So there's no vote on this one. It's just the members note the progress made against the outcomes of the Grenfell Tower review. So, okay, so we're on the next item on the agenda. Thanks, Rich, once again.
Sorry, Chair, can I just have a mover and a seconder for that one, please?
Yeah, I'll move it. Yeah.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, then. So we're going to... Hugh, is it? No, Sarah's the next one, is it? Yes? No. No. Alison. This paperwork is no... I haven't really had any good paperwork here, have you? So we've done that one there. Right, firefighter 139. Alison, that's you, is it?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, so we've discussed firefighter pensions previously, and we've made some decisions in relation to work on immediate detriment cases. So this is about remedying age discriminations that happened a few years ago in relation to firefighter pensions. This report is for information, and I'm asking members to note that we are continuing to work on immediate detriment cases as previously agreed, but also to note that our intention is to only bring back a report to future fire authorities meetings if there is further legal and or significant taxation or funding issues. We are continuing to work with our tax advisors and various other stakeholders in terms of progressing cases. But as you'll remember, we are working towards the spirit of an MOU that was agreed between the LGA and the Fire Brigades Union, and that's allowing us to progress cases under Category 1. And what that means is anyone wanting to retire at the moment, we are offering them 2 pension benefit statements, and the Cat 2 cases are those where members have already retired and we are working towards the groundwork on those cases, in particular around the tax implications for those. So it's just really an update that we are continuing to work on the cases. We know we have the powers to settle cases because this argument has been tested already in the Employment Tribunal. So that's as much as I wanted to say, really.
Yes, you'll have to excuse my Westminster chimes going off at the minute. I'm sorry about that, but I say it's my mother haunting me because I hate this clock, and I think she haunts me with it every day. So, the recommendation of the members note and work that continue detrimental.
Can I ask a question, Steve?
Yeah. Sorry, Steve, I didn't see you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All I wanted to know is how many cases we've got outstanding, Alison, or are we just doing it on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, so Councillor Evans, we've processed 3 cases under the category 1. So those are people who are wanting to retire now. We've got another 4 or 5 cases to process before the end of March. In terms of the category 2 cases, we believe we've got around 50 to process.
So when I come back, I think there's a bit of work with the last lot then.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd only make my only comment, Chairman, is that little point number 2 for only if any further legal and or significant taxation or funding issues are identified. I hope we're not. No, we're doing things the right and proper way, Alison. It's got to be done. It should be done. But it just makes me feel a trifle uneasy when you see further legal or whatever.
Yep. Okay, so the recommendations of the members note the work of the continuing improvement detriment cases previously agreed, the work of the canoes to fully adopt the MOU between the LGA and the FBU, and the members note that further report will be brought to the Fire Authority only to have further legal taxation funding. So yes, so everybody's. Can I have a mover in a second for that, please?
I'll move it, Chairman.
I'll second it, yeah.
1.4, lovely.
Okay, thank you ever so much. So we go on to on page 145 now. This is Sarah. I didn't think I'd be chairing this full meeting, so I've got to do an important phone call. So can Steve Evans, can you chair this meeting until I come back? I'll be about 5 minutes. If that's okay with you?
That's fine, Steve. Go on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you ever so much.
Page 145, and I think this is yours, Sarah, to take on.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Evans. This is a report on the responses to the consultation on our strategic themes and objectives for 2022-2023. Now, the service recently consulted with the public on the strategic themes and objectives that have been developed for 2022-23, and members are being asked to consider the responses received during that consultation that ran from the 1st of November 2021 to the 24th of January 2022. Now, we have a duty under the Local Government Wales Measure 2009 to consult on our proposed improvement objectives that are in support of our long-term strategic vision. And the proposed themes and objectives were approved for public consultation by South Wales Fire and Rescue Authority in July 2021. The total number of responses that we received to the consultation was 220, and there is strong agreement with our proposed 22-23 objectives. This year, 87% of the responses were in agreement with our proposed objectives, which is slightly lower than the 89% agreement that we received in last year's response to our proposed objectives. I didn't plan to talk members through Appendix 1, which is attached, which is the report and the breakdown of those consultation results, because I'm sure members have reviewed Appendix 1 in its entirety. So I'm asking for members to approve the strategic themes and objectives in the recommendation. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Anybody got any questions for us, Sarah?
Not a question, Chairman, if I may. Just under 1.4, the consultees, the third bullet point, community councils perhaps were included, and it's just not listed. Sometimes they get a little upset if they're not included. You have town councils, but community councils are the same status and might get a few more responses then, Chairman.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you, Smith. I'll check our consultation register and ensure that community councils are engaged with.
Can I ask, looking at a lot of that, are we looking to do younger people? Because we seem to have, for the Rhondda 50 plus forum, shouldn't we be targeting more younger people now to put this consultation out there? The younger ones are the future generations, and I think we should be looking at that.
Absolutely, Councillor Evans, and that's one of the things when we've been reviewing this information is how we can modify our consultation strategy next year. For example, we have a cadre of fire cadets that we could maybe do some specific consultation and engagement with, and that's one of the things that I'm going to speak to our consultation and engagement group on following looking at the analysis of these results.
So thank you for that. Anybody else got any more questions for Sarah? If not, the recommendations that members...
Sorry, Councillor Evans, I can see Councillor Norton indicating.
All right.
Yeah, it was a really good survey and response. Obviously, it's hard to more people respond to this time than last year, and the number of positives were about the same. My only question is obviously on the being valued. Obviously, that's been the lowest for a number of years. Still, 75% in favour, but that's obviously 9% lower. And I just wanted to have a breakdown. So you said in the survey response, it says that it's lower because staff members in particular obviously rate themselves being valued lower. So what on that one question, what was the difference between general members of the public and employees of the firefighter? Obviously, I do appreciate it's only a small number of employees who actually did fill out the survey, so they're not a total representative sample of the entire staff body, but they do make up a significant number. So I just wanted to see what was the percentage of staff in particular was valued.
I don't think I've got that information to hand, Councillor Norton, but I'll make note of that question and I'll get back to you with those figures.
Are you happy with that, Dan? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions before we move on to the recommendation? I can't see any on my screen. I didn't know whether...
Only a comment, Chairman. It is
go on, Val.
Isn't it? I mean, how many thousands of people do we look after as an authority? Only 220 respond. Yes, it's how to get people to be interested in doing these things. Perhaps you have to give a prize, like £100 for the first one drawn out of the barrel.
I like that one, Val. Well, I don't think there's no answer to that. I think that's up to the staff to work out some sort of engagement to try and engage more people to consult with us.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult one, as everyone knows.
Yes.
If we move on to the recommendations, then the first recommendation that members review the consultation evaluation appendices A.
Yep.
And the second one is that members approve the strategic themes and objectives detailed in Appendix A, collectively considered as our improvement in objectives. That was a mouthful.
Yep.
We have a promoter and a seconder for that.
Move.
Right,
Second.
thank you.
Okay, so we go to that, Hugh. It's for you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This report, member, seeks to introduce the latest of the thematic review from the Welsh Government's Fire and Rescue Service Advisor. It was published in December last year, 2021. and builds on Welsh Government's ambition, really, for the Welsh Fire and Rescue Services to provide greater assistance across our communities, but in assistance with and supporting our NHS colleagues. Members will recall in 2015 we conducted trials as part of the national trials that were ongoing through the National Council. We had about 11 fire stations that took part in the trials. Responded to about 250 calls, and we've gone to categories calls, including cardiac arrest, severe bleed, choking, and someone unconscious. The trial data has been presented to Welsh Government, and beginning of last year, end of 2020, the Welsh Government with Welsh Fire and Rescue Services and NHS colleagues and Welsh Government officials started a working group which we represented ourselves on, presented data. And basically that working group come back with, and yes, asked was that if the Welsh Fire and Rescue Services was going to help our NHS colleagues, it would be in the field of someone experiencing a cardiac arrest in the community, an injured faller, and within the prevention strand as well. But basically what the Fire and Rescue Service Advisor, the Welsh Government, has done a thematic review to understand whether or not the 3 fire and rescue services in Wales have the capacity to undertake that level of work and activity, in addition to the statutory roles and the non-statutory roles which we already do as a service. As we've already heard from Richie's report and the Grenfell report and members' comments as well, it is a significant challenge and complexity for our operational staff to maintain their operational competence across the raft of calls, kit and equipment that we expect them to respond to and to use on a day-to-day basis. We've also found that the built environment is not built to the standard and regulation in which we first thought, and we've had that report that Richie presented as part of the Grenfell Tower report earlier on the agenda. And we also have a very long and proud history of community safety, where we're reducing fire deaths and injuries by proactively working in an education, early intervention and prevention strands to those that are vulnerable in our communities and homes, and also looking to seek and change human behaviour through our schools and community programmes and youth engagement strands as well. So doing all that sort of stuff is recognised to be a challenge and a complex working environment for our firefighters anyway. So the outcome from the Fire and Rescue Service Advisor has basically come back and said the busy times for the Ambulance Trust and ourselves correspond to each other in general terms. However, he does conclude that there is capacity in the working day and night, that firefighters may be able to shift some of their day activity into the nighttime activity as well. That is going to need to take a workforce negotiation perspective, and that is sitting within Welsh Government to work in social partnership with the representative groups that represent the firefighters that work in Wales, which is generally the Fire Brigades Union. Members will see the recommendations that the Fire and Rescue Service Advisor made on page 192 of the bundle of papers that members have today. What I have commenced is a working group to look at the efficiency effectiveness of how we are currently working. So detaching the broad and the role to make sure that we can, with the working patterns that we've got on our whole-time duty shift working stations, that we do maintain our efficiency and effectiveness, and firefighters have suitable and sufficient time to maintain the skills and everything else that we want them to do around community safety and understanding their built environment as well. The working group will report to the Operational Coordination Group, which is an established governance structure that we have across the service, and I've placed on them a reporting timeline of the autumn, and my anticipation is that we'll bring a report back to members by the end of this calendar year. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Steve?
I got 3 if that's okay. The thing when I read the report, I was quite concerned that he's looking to alter the shift patterns, which you probably stated just then for you. The second thing, if there are any major incidents, surely that's going to affect the assisting the health boards. And on the third thing, the health service have had dramatically more funding put into it, Are we looking to get any more funding to cope with any extra responsibility?
That's the golden
Yeah,
question.
yeah, thanks, Steve. I'll take the easy one to start with, and that's the shift patterns. And basically, I think what the fire advisor is saying, it's not a change of shift pattern. So our whole time duty shift patterns here in South Wales is a 2 days, 2 night shift pattern. I think what he's advocating is a change in start and finishing time. So I know he uses a terminology, or the report uses terminology around change of shift pattern. I see that more as a start and finish time changes, as with the day duty system that is used and utilised in Mid and West and North Wales as well. That would need to be done in social partnership and negotiated with the representative bodies. Turning your attention to the number of incidents, we have got resilience in our system. You know, we've got 47 fire stations, we've got 60 fire engines serving a population of nearly 1.6 million across South Wales. During the trials that we ran, which was for 22 months, 250 calls that we responded to, not once at that time did we have any simultaneous activity. So we weren't attending a fire when we were going to a medical call, and we weren't on a medical call when a fire came in that particular area. So don't get me wrong, as you increase the numbers and stations, the occurrence of that would happen would likely to occur, which is why having the capacity around the 47 fire stations, 60 fire engines that we've got, and the location and geographical patch that we've got, I would not compromise our position in that. When you look at NHS funding, obviously you can't comment on how much or how little NHS have been funded or continue to be funded. But if this was in addition, there is a High Court case goes back to about 2006, where it was determined that responding to medical calls in assistance with our ambulance colleagues from a cardiac arrest perspective, etc., was not deemed to be in a firefighter's roadmap. Although the judge did determine that it would be a good thing if fire and rescue services across the UK responded to communities like that. It was clear then, whilst it wasn't in the firefighter's roadmap or job description, there would need to be a negotiated position with the representative bodies, and that's the position that we're in now. We've seen progress being made in recent times up in Scotland, and different percentage offers on remuneration have been offered, but it has not to this date been a settlement either in England, Scotland, Northern Ireland or Wales. Although we do seem to be making very good progress with our colleagues across the NHS, and Welsh Government officials and ministers seem to be making good progress with our representative body colleagues as well. Thank you.
Can I come back in and ask an excellent answer? You've been practicing that, I think.
Are we living this
on the second point, on the major incidents, do you think we got the capability, if we are stretched, particularly, the reason I ask that, if we ever had a terrorism incident, by God I hope we don't, would our mechanism be able to cope with that substantial pressure?
Yeah, I do believe we could, Steve. Looking at the data and the statistics that we're looking at, if you recall, I think the 3 areas that the working group that Debbie was involved in was around cardiac arrest, uninjured callers and prevention. We're doing already a lot of work in the prevention strand, working with colleagues around domestic abuse and sexual violence. We're doing a lot around carbon monoxide. We're doing a lot around smoking cessation and slips and falls and other things that when we're in vulnerable people's homes, we're already identifying them and got pathways of referrals into the appropriate agencies for that. Operational demand, looking at the operational demand around cardiac arrests, that I think we have got that capacity to be able to do that. I think without a shift change, or a start and finish time shift change, taking on the uninjured callers, I think would be a tall ask within our current working practices and systems. That would probably really need to change to accommodate that element of work that has been identified in the report.
I'm happy if you're happy, it'll work.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor, I can see his hands up. I can see your hands up. Councillor Brown, then I've.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I noticed that on, I think it's 1.4 of your report, it mentions about discussions between senior FRS and NHS officers had identified clear potential for firefighters in Wales to respond to certain medical emergencies, to people who had fallen but were uninjured, and to help prevent falls in the home. I mean, the other area that you have mentioned is about, cardiac arrests, which I think is a very important area. Is that work still progressing in Chepstow? Because one of my concerns is that the Welsh Ambulance Trust have been talking about changing their rotas so that it'll effectively cut their response in Chepstow and in Monmouth. And we're very concerned about this. And obviously, if there is capacity for the fire officers to engage in this work, then it will be very helpful, although I appreciate that they've still got their fundamental role. But I was surprised looking at page 181, which sort of details the breakdown of the activities, how much time is spent in sort of training, cleaning and checking. And I appreciate that needs to be done to make sure that fighters are safe when they go out. But just wondered how, that compared to other emergency services in the time they spend on training and checking equipment to see whether or not there is an additional capacity there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Brown. I can't really comment on other emergency services sort of safe systems of work and practices, but it is absolutely essential that our operational crews are familiar with the kit and equipment that they carry, and that kit and equipment is in a state of readiness and ready for deployment. And when you look at the array of equipment that we carry, as Rich alluded to earlier, around our statutory duty around flooding and water, then the complexities of working from boats to rope, right through to the road traffic extrication kit that we carry, there's an extensive skill sets and competency that we expect from our operational firefighters across all our fire stations. On paragraph 1.4, when you refer to...
But does it need to be done every day is the question.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Every day, yeah.
It's making sure that our kit and equipment don't get a malfunction, that it is safe to work and actually complies with health and safety legislation as well. The kit and equipment that we use can be dangerous to the user, and it is there if it's not used in the right way and is fit for purpose, safe and sufficient to you, then it could be a hazard to them, which is why we've got a very rigorous testing system. And I would advocate that we don't slacken our standards there at all. On paragraph 1.4, when you talk around the statement there around medical emergencies, it is in the cardiac arrest capacity that refers to.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because I thought it was. Sorry, Chair. Can I ask? I thought it was. Uninjured falls were separate from cardiac arrest.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So on paragraph 1.4, it talks around medical emergencies. Which is about cardiac arrest, really. Uninjured fallers is a second category, and then working in a prevention role. And then, sorry, to answer your question on Caldicot and Chepstow and the Monmouthshire stations, yeah, they initially volunteered to take part and to respond to cardiac arrest in the communities. My understanding is at the moment that is no longer continuing.
All right. Is there any possibility of that being started again?
I think I think, to be honest with you, I think where we are now in Wales and the ambition that Welsh Government want us to work with our NHS colleagues and respond to our communities, including cardiac arrest, is we're at the stage now of workforce representative body engagement and discussions and negotiations on what terms and conditions, what remuneration in pay, if any, would come from that. So we're at a position now where Welsh Government ministers and officials need to engage with the Fire Brigade Union and other representative bodies to get this over the line now.
So a fire officer couldn't just do it voluntarily if they wanted to?
Yes, they could. Yeah, without shadow of doubt. Yes, absolutely, and we would encourage them to do that. But it is tied up in terms, conditions.
I appreciate that. But if they said, that if a station said we still want to carry on with it, they could if they wanted to. Then.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and we would happily as a management team support that, and have got the right skills to be able to do that. Just regret where we are now. It's tied up in a workforce negotiation issue, industrial relations issue, probably.
Okay, thank you.
Arv, you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Don't you think that we already, as a fire authority, have problems with recruitment? Do you think that this might deter applicants coming to the fire authority? You know, I mean, they want to be firefighters, not ambulance men or, you know, cardiac arrest specialists or, you know, I mean, their goal is to be a firefighter, and that could possibly cause a problem with recruitment. And when are they going to ask you to man the lifeboats? I'd like to know.
Yeah, thanks. No, we haven't got a recruitment problem. In fact, we've just received nearly 1,500 applications to be a firefighter across South Wales, and we'll probably only have about 60 vacancies in the next 12 months for that. And we initially had 3,000 people expressing interest in being a firefighter, and we had about 1,500 completely online application. The role of a firefighter has changed significantly in the 32 years that I've been in the service. Our approach to early intervention, prevention and education and targeting those that are vulnerable in our community is significant. So the skill set in which we're asking our firefighters to undertake now and how they're tested to come into a job is vastly different than what I had. So we're not experiencing a shortfall in operational firefighters. We're not experiencing the ability for firefighters to maintain their competencies as well, which is massive these days, and which we're asking our staff to do. And we already undertake water rescue and inland water flooding, and we do work with Coast Guard, RNLI, and other charities in that respect as well.
Rich, you wanted to come in, Rich?
Yeah, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, there are some massive challenges to the expansion of the role, I think, in terms of it's important we do the evidence-based work to see what our requirements for training are. Firefighting is very different to most other occupations. We can't create a safe workplace, so we have to invest quite heavily on training. And I think Dan's report in page 182 actually recognises that. I think some of the challenges as well for our workforce is, you know, half of our stations are on call. On call is probably where the recruitment is most difficult, and actually calling them out with their primary employer might become problematic.
Yeah.
So I think it's important we take the evidence in the full rounds, and there's a wide bit of workforce negotiation that would have to happen. I think that it's a proposal as is. I think, you know, the uninjured fall term is quite open, quite loose. So is that someone who's diabetic? Is that someone who's broken a hip? There's a lot of challenges around that, I think. On the top of the iceberg looks fine. I think there's major questions I'd want answered around that as an officer to try and implement that, I think. So I think there's quite a bit of work to go, perhaps.
Yeah. Councillor Brown?
I'm not sure if Councillor Smith was before me.
No, your hand was up before Councillor Smith.
Oh, was it? Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the sort of prime roles of the firefighter is saving lives. So I think obviously if it did expand to dealing with things like heart attacks or as over the COVID period, assisting with the ambulance side when people have to wait hours on end to get an ambulance, then you know, it would assist, because I can see that sort of linking in with the altruistic saving lives role that I think is what attracts recruits to the fire service in the first place. Thank you.
Val?
Regarding the recruitment, retained station that we have as ELSC for years, we've struggled with staffing, and now suddenly we're right up to quota, and we even have interested people, you know, individuals who wish to join the authority. So that's a real, it's an interesting situation. So we don't have a recruitment problem there any longer. I had a concern with that little station. Officers will know this has long been a thing with me that a joint service, well, a provision with health also incorporated was something that I thought was the way forward. This report is very good because I'd not realised the ramifications of it, the thinking that has to go into it. You can't just say do it and do it. But we did actually have for some time a scheme which covered Monmouthshire and was very satisfactory, whereby cardiac arrest was being dealt with, those cases, by Fire Authority. We did benefit from that service. It's a big rural area, and certainly I would like to, well, the initiative is obviously going forward. I'd not realised the ramifications of it, all the issues that are concerns to actually get to the situation I want to see us getting at. So I'm glad to see things going forward. Thank you for the report, because it's waking me up to the issues that we have to get through to achieve that. So thanks very much. But that issue in Abergavenny that I quoted of getting somebody off a flat roof with a broken hip and this, that and the other, yes, our officers are very good. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Val. Steve, I saw you waving at me, yeah?
Yeah, the first thing, it looks like we're heading to the modelling of the American Fire Service. But they seem to do this already. So normally we follow America out so many years after. The question I want to raise is, with the health service, particularly on their pickups with the ambulances and there's hold-ups, and the waiting times are absolutely abominable, and they're outside the hospitals. How are we going to cope with this as a service if we have to deal with that?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's okay. Yeah, people quote the American model. Not every state in America does that. So there are many states in America that will have paramedics, but part of being a firefighter is that you're a paramedic as well. So it is something different, because we, our firefighters already have the skill sets. We already have the kit and equipment here in South Wales. So we carry a trauma bag, we carry defibrillators on our appliances, but our firefighters are trained to trauma and basic life support, so not paramedic. That type of qualification would take 3 years from a university degree, and the level and amount of continued professional development per year that they would need to do would be quite significant. So it could be seen perhaps a bit of a hybrid, but the American model is not a universal model across America. And then the waiting times, what we say in here is that we go into our communities at their greatest risk, so a cardiac arrest. So that would be the top priority call for the ambulance service at any time. So we would be going not instead of, but in addition to. So the waiting times at the A&E department or the emergency department is not what we would get involved in. So we wouldn't get involved in conveyances and casualties to hospitals. That would still be the ambulance trust's job and purpose as well.
Great.
I was more concerned of the waiting time if an ambulance was attending while you were in attendance as well. That was my biggest concern, that the unit would be waiting on the ambulance to turn up and take the patient away. So.
Yeah, throughout the trials, we did have occurrences where we were in attendance first before the ambulance service, but we didn't have any where there was significant waiting time or lag time between us being in attendance or the ambulance service backing us up or coming shortly behind. This is the highest category of call that would go into the ambulance service, a cardiac arrest. The uninjured faller is a different element. I know we've just discussed that as well, but focusing on that life-saving intervention in the community, then we don't envisage that there would be a significant lag time, if any, between us and the ambulance service attendant, if our trials were anything to base that on as well.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, there's no more questions. Just
there's one more. Susan, yeah.
Please accept my apologies, Chair and everybody. I've got 2 emergencies. If you've just seen my knock at the door, I've got to go. So sorry. Thank you.
Really appreciated. Thank you ever so much.
And I hope your results will be okay. You take care.
Yes. Thank you, diolch. Yeah.
Steve, can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes, yes, of course. Nice to see you, Susan Morgan. Yes.
I'm conscious about the RTAs. Now, we don't always call out the fire service for an RTA. They send the police, and basically, probably, if we went to more of these calls, because we had 7 in my locality going back a couple of months ago, and no fire service was called out for anything. Now, would you know, if they were called out more often on these 999 calls, do you think that it would take it away then from them having to call out for the NHS calls?
Yeah, so generally mobilisation to road traffic collisions, Councillor Morgan, generally where this person's trapped, so they're either medically or physically trapped within the road accident, and would need our crew to create the space to allow sort of, you know, the medical paramedic type intervention to happen either within the vehicle or at the roadside. So we would generally be there to make the scene safe. You know, if there's any leaking of fuels, but generally we would be called if the ambulance service could call us, or the police would call us, or if the member of the public put a call in would indicate that those persons trapped within the vehicle, then we would be mobilised then automatically as well.
Yeah, because what I'm conscious is, who decides basically that fire service should be there? Surely it's a 999 call for an RTA. If there's more than one car involved, that they should be first protocol.
I guess there's loads of different scenarios from a road traffic collision. So it really depends on the information and intelligence that the caller is either putting through, or if the police or ambulance are in attendance, then they would know and recognise the skills that we can bring at that roadside then to, as I say, to create the space and manage the scene for others to be working within safely.
Okay. And the other thing was, we've had rumours that one of our rapid response paramedic cars going to be taken away from Gatley, from the ambulance station. Do you think that you would be expected to step up in that area?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not aware. I'm not aware of sort of the disposition and how the ambulance trust move their resources around. That's not something that I am aware of.
Yeah, they don't consult with you obviously first to see what stations we have got in the area.
No, not generally. That would be an operational issue, and may change from different days and time of the day as well. So I'm not familiar with that proposal.
Okay, thanks for your help.
Okay, thank you so much. As I said, it's a good report. So no other members. No.
Yeah, I'd like to say in conclusion, really, there's lots of issues that's been raised throughout the Fire and Rescue Service Advisor report on this. And one of them is around the training and competency of staff, the complexity on maintaining the range of skills and experience that we need. And the Fire and Rescue Service Advisor has now commenced its thematic review into training. So we will be expecting another thematic review to be published probably by the end of this year, if not early.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Hugh. Really much appreciated. So the recommendation of the members acknowledge the thematic report of the Chief Fire Officer and Rescue Advisor of the Welsh Fire and Rescue Service and the capacity carry work arising from broad in the role of the Firefighter Wales, and members note the report be considered by the Services Operation Coordinating Group, and members note that the further update of the report will be provided to the Fire Authority in due course. So everybody's happy with that, okay?
Propose it, yeah.
Okay, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to I believe it is the last item on the agenda, forward working programme.
So I'll take that for you, Chair. So we can see the forward work programme for the next meeting on the 28th of March on pages 200, 201 and 202 of your packs. I haven't got anything specific to mention there for members' attention.
Okay, thank you ever so much for that, Sarah. And item 9, I've got no other urgent business, so have a safe journey home, everybody, and we'll see you in the next meeting. Diolch yn fawr iawn. All the best. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks all.